Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. When you look at someone, or you look at a scene, or even when you look at the news or read the news on an app or in a paper, or you see it on television, do you see things with spiritual eyes, or do you just see with human eyes? There's a huge difference between those two things. Satan has blinded our eyes so we cannot see. But we see physically, but we don't see the spiritual realities of situations. Think about it. With temptation, we see something that looks attractive, looks good, but our eyes are blinded to the spiritual realities behind what we see. Or another example, there's two people locked in a conflict, in an argument, could be in a marriage, could be in a relationship, and we just see the person in front of us and the situation involved, and we don't see the spiritual realities. But Jesus came to open our eyes. And when our eyes are open, not just physically, it wasn't just referring to physically blind people having their eyes open, but people who can see having their eyes open to see spiritual realities with spiritual eyes. And sometimes there's a moment in our lives. It could be just a unusual situation in a relationship or a circumstance when God suddenly opens our eyes to see things as He does spiritually. Now, let me explain why the verses that we have today. Paul is on trial before King Agrippa, the Roman king. Now, Paul sees this as a fulfillment of his call. On the Damascus Road, Jesus told him that he would be Jesus' witnesses before the Gentiles and their kings. And now he's before a king, King Agrippa, one of the Gentile kings. So he sees it as a fulfillment of his purpose. The people in the courtroom see it as him being a prisoner on trial in a bad place, seeing it totally differently from physical or spiritual eyes. And sometimes we are in a difficult situation and we see it only from physical eyes, and we don't see it from spiritual eyes. It makes all the difference. So Paul's there on trial. King Agrippa enters with great pomp, with Bernice, the governor Festus, and all the nobles and important people of the area. Paul, of course, sees an incredible opportunity with his spiritual eyes. Others see it as a negative situation. This guy is on trial. This guy is in trouble. This is what's going to happen to this guy. They're there to impress the king. Totally different ways of looking at the same situation. So Paul has the opportunity to speak, to defend himself. And what Paul does, of course, is tells his testimony. He's telling how he got saved, how Jesus opened his eyes, and what he's been doing to open other people's eyes. King Festus interrupts him, shouts out. He's getting agitated. Through spiritual eyes, he's probably getting agitated because he's uncomfortable. He's feeling conviction. So he yells, "You are insane, Paul." And Paul responds, "No, I'm not." King Agrippa knows what I'm talking about. And then an amazing dialogue happens between Paul and King Agrippa. Listen to what happens in Acts 26, verse 27 through 29. This is Paul speaking first. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do. Then Agrippa said to Paul, do you think that in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian? Paul replied, short time or long, I pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today may become what I am, except for these chains. Powerful response on Paul's part. He starts out, King Agrippa, do you know the prophets? I know you do. Suddenly, Paul, the prisoner, is now questioning the judge. The judge is now on trial. Totally flips the script. The judge is in the witness seat. The judge is now the defendant. The judge is now the prisoner, and Paul is free. Spiritually, you see, they're looking at things differently. Then Agrippa said to Paul, do you think in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian? I think his spiritual eyes were starting to open. I think there was conviction in the room. That's why Festus interrupted. That's why Agrippa was answering like this. Do you think you can? I think there was something in his heart happening. The veil was coming up a little bit. And Paul replied, short time or long, excuse me, I pray God that not only you, but all who are listening to me may become what I am, except for these chains. He prays to God. He mentions God. Spiritual realities. Paul is seeing through his spiritual eyes. Paul may be in chains, but Paul is free. King Agrippa and the others are not in chains, but they are in bondage. They are the prisoners of Satan. Paul is not really on trial. King Agrippa is on trial. Festus is on trial. All the others there are on trial because Paul has told them the gospel. And their answer will be the difference between life and death. They are on trial, not Paul. What do you see? Jesus saw a city. He said, like sheep without a shepherd. What do you see? Jesus saw a broken man possessed by a demon. And he saw a child of God needing deliverance. What do you see? You look at people, what do you see? Lost people needing salvation. I pray that I would see people and situations with spiritual eyes. And I pray that you would pray that prayer for yourself to see things through spiritual eyes. God bless you. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.